Hello sports fans, it is Monday, August the 10th, the year 2015, and as always, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. Great to be back with you guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer as we inch closer and closer to the start of football season. I can't wait for that. Let's quickly go through the Major League Baseball standings. Some teams are getting very, very hot right now. Let's start in the American League East, where the Yankees' lead over Toronto is down to a game and a half as Toronto just dusted the Yankees at Yankee Stadium over the weekend. Toronto is on absolute fire. Ever since they got Tulowitzki and Price, they can't be stopped. They're like a wrecking crew. We know they can hit. Now they're getting good pitching. They're on absolute fire. They're right on the Yankees' heels. You've heard me talk about Toronto for the last few years and how underwhelmed I am by them and how disappointed I am by them and how I always expect more from them. Well, they've really hit their stride now. Toronto is on absolute fire. Now listen, they're not going to continue at this pace. Let's see when they drop a couple games how they react, but right now they can do no wrong. I mean, they just bombarded the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. So Yankees, game and a half lead over Toronto. Baltimore is 5 games back, and then you have Tampa Bay and Boston bringing up the rear. As far as the Central Division, Kansas City has opened up an 11.5 game lead over Minnesota. Kansas City, one of the best teams in baseball. Minnesota, they got off to a nice start. They've really hit the wall now. Detroit, listen, they're fading out of it. Without Cabrera, they trade away Price. Verlander is not the same pitcher. I don't expect anything from Detroit. And forget about Chicago and Cleveland. As far as the American League West, Houston has a half game lead over the Angels. Those two teams have been going back and forth. Remember, Houston had a huge lead. The Angels caught and passed them. Now Houston has regained that lead. They have a half-game lead over the Angels. Texas only 4.5 games out, but I don't expect Texas to make the playoffs. Very disappointed in Seattle this year. It just never happened for Seattle, and forget about Oakland. As far as the American League wild card, right now Toronto has the lead for that first wild card spot, and like I said, they're only a game and a half out of the division, so Toronto looks in solid shape right now. Angels have that second wild card spot. They're in good shape also because they are also only a half a game out for the division. So Toronto and the Angels in good shape. Baltimore 3 games out of the wild card spot. They're right there. Tampa Bay 4 out. I'm not a big believer in Tampa, but they're only 4 out. Same thing with Texas, 4 out, but I'm not a big believer in them. Minnesota 4.5 out, but they're going the wrong way now. And Detroit 5.5 out. You can't be too excited if you're a Tiger fan. I mean, they lose now their GM who steps down. Cabrera's still out. Verlander is not the same pitcher, and they trade Price. So, I mean, I don't know what you could expect from Detroit. That's where you are in your American League. Toronto is the real story right now. They are on absolute fire. If you haven't seen Toronto, check them out. Since they picked up Tulowitzki and Price, they are like a wrecking crew. So that is your American League right now. As far as the National League East, the New York Mets have a game and a half lead over the Washington Nationals. Tremendous job by the Mets. The Mets pitching is outstanding. I mean, the Mets have really, really good pitching. I mean, so many good young arms keeps them in every game. The pitching is there every single night for the Mets. Now they picked up a couple of bats. They got Cespedes, Uribe. You know, listen, I don't love Uribe, but they still picked him up. So the Mets now definitely a little improved on offense. You get David Wright back. Mets have a real good shot at winning this division. Washington, game and a half out. Washington not firing on all cylinders. I can't put my finger on Washington. They have solid pitching. They have a solid team. They had a lot of injuries this year, and a lot of those guys that came off the DL are not playing well since they got back from injury. Washington's still only a game and a half out, but I just don't like what I'm seeing from Washington right now. So this should be an interesting battle the rest of the way, the Mets and Washington. Atlanta, Philly, and Miami, they're out of it. As far as the Central, St. Louis, one of the best teams in baseball, tremendous pitching, even without Wainwright, year in and year out. St. Louis is always there. They have a 5-game lead over Pittsburgh, and that's saying something because Pittsburgh is a solid team. Cubs 8.5 out, but they're right there for the wild card. Forget about the Reds in Milwaukee. National League West, rough weekend for the Dodgers and the Giants. The Dodgers got dusted by Pittsburgh over the weekend in the Steel City, and the Giants got bombarded by the Cubs at Wrigley. Right now, the Dodgers have a 3-game lead over the Giants. I've been saying it all year. You expect the Dodgers to win this division. Still, you never count out the Giants. They're 3 out. They're right there for the wild card. And forget about Arizona, San Diego, and Colorado. They are not going to make the playoffs. As far as the National League wild card, Right now, Pittsburgh has that first wild card spot. I expect Pittsburgh to make the playoffs. Cubs have the second wild card spot thanks to their big weekend where they just dusted San Francisco at Wrigley Field. So the Cubs have opened up a 3.5 game lead over the Giants for that second wild card spot. Washington 5 out of the wild card spot. Like I said, though, Washington only a game and a half out as far as the division. Washington's got a better chance of winning the division than they do making it as a wild card. Right now, I'll tell you, Pittsburgh and the Cubs look pretty good. The Giants got to start picking up their play. They're 3 out for the division and the wild card. You still have time. The rest of August and September, you don't want to fall any more further back than you already are. So that's what you got going on in baseball. A lot of teams making some moves, especially those Toronto Blue Jays. Wow, they look really, really impressive right now. So that's where you are in your baseball. Still got some time for that. Football will be here before you know it. We got about another month. I know preseason started last night with the Hall of Fame game with Minnesota beating Pittsburgh 14-3. I can't get into preseason football. I will not watch 1 second of it. As much as I love football, I wait for the regular season to start. I can't watch preseason football and the first team is playing 3 snaps and then coming out of the game and the fourth string is, playing, the second half. I can't watch that. I cannot watch that at all. I don't get into preseason football. First of all, there's too many preseason games. I wish they would eliminate preseason altogether. 4 games is just way too many, and the Steelers and the Vikings, because they played in the Hall of Fame game, play 5 preseason games. That's way too many. I mean, what you hope for if you're a fan of any team? Nobody gets hurt. But I will not watch 1 second of preseason football. I did mention it was Hall of Fame weekend. Bettis, Sayal, amongst others, getting to the Hall of Fame. Like I said, I'm not a big Hall of Fame guy. I did watch a few of the highlights from that. They seem to do a good job speaking everybody. Like I said, I don't get into the Hall of Fame in any sport, really. I think a lot of the Hall of Fame is watered down in every sport now. I mean, I know who the immortals are. To me, a lot of compilers get into the Hall of Fame now. A lot of guys, don't get into the Hall of Fame because, steroids, or like Pete Rose with the betting. So to me, I'm not a big Hall of Fame guy, but it was Hall of Fame weekend in the NFL. Sad to see Frank Gifford passed away over the weekend, the longtime Giant. Frank Gifford played offense and defense when he played, won an NFL championship, 8 Pro Bowls, won an MVP. Of course, he was the Monday Night Football broadcaster. He's in the Hall of Fame. Sad to see Frank Gifford pass away at the age of 85 yesterday. Frank Gifford, you will be missed. Okay, there you go. You guys are all caught up. You guys are all set. I know it's a slow time right now. Other than baseball, there's not much else going on. But in about a month, that'll all change. Football will come rolling in. College football and pro football. We'll get our picks going. Soon after that, we'll be into another NBA and NHL season. We'll be into postseason baseball. Hopefully, we get a couple of good boxing fights in the fall as well. So a lot of stuff coming up. Hang in there until then. I know it's a slow time right now, but you do have your baseball. You got some races to keep an eye on. You guys, thanks as always for your support. You guys are the best. You guys stay happy, healthy, and safe. I will be back with you guys very, very soon. Take care.